Oh, boy.
Just before we start, this is from Lev Yaakov. Yesterday sent us
This is
how the script of Ivri seems to be, and not very recognizable.
wow. Aleph is the only one that looks the same. That's it. Besides that,
Zoom,
wow.
and the rabbi in
Very
charge
interesting.
of the Zoom
Okay.
here said, just open up Zoom. You have a number to click on and then a
Okay.
password, and you'll be right here with us. Okay?
Okay, so we're ready to start the daf.
Okay?
We're on
This will take place in
Daf.
another couple hours, but I wanted you to give you a heads up in case you have anything.
Testament base. We have the last two more Ein Bains that we're talking about over here. And that's our cruise about the Ein Bain that started because of other Rishon, Ein Bain Adar Rishon Adar Sheni. But now we took it on very many different topics, and we have two more left. And then that's the end of the parak. And then the Gemara at the end brings all the Agarata, about 5 daf about the Agarata, about the Megillah Sester, which took more place at the end of this parak, but that's because the parak is over. So here goes the two more Mishnais. Ein Bain Bama Gedola and Bama Ketana, El Psachim. Difference between a Bama Gedola and a Bama Ketana. A Bama Gedola means in Gilgal or Nova Givon when it was permissible to bring a korban on a private Bama, and anybody could have built a Bama any place they wanted, and that's called a Bama Ketana. And the Bama Gedola would be the Mizbeach that would be in the Mishkan. The Mishkan was in Nova Givon or in Gilgal, and that's called not a Mizbeach, it's called a Bama Gedola because at the time you were allowed to bring a korban on a Bama Ketana also. And what is the difference? The word Bama Gedola is even the pasuk itself refers to it as a Bama Gedola. That's a pasuk in Malachim, Perek 3, pasuk 4. Over there, it's called Bama Gedola. So, what is the difference? Psachim. So, the Gemara is going to say right away that it doesn't mean only Psachim. The Mishnah itself, that at this point it means a korban Pesach. You're not allowed to bring on your own private Bama. If you want to bring a Shlomim and Ola, any kind of a voluntary korban, you're allowed to bring. But a korban Pesach, which is not a voluntary korban, it's an obligation. You're not allowed to bring it a Bama Ketana. Everyone would have to come to the Bama Gedola, even though in a way it might be considered a private individual korban, but it's not, and it is, but it's obligatory korban, and therefore you must bring it after the Mishkan. Zaklal, and the Mishnah now seems to be broadening. That's not only korban Pesach. That's the only difference. Only a korban which is a voluntary korban. Now that's you're allowed to bring in a Bama Ketana in your own backyard. If it's a Ola, Shlomim, Toda, all kinds of voluntary korbanos. But if it's not a voluntary korban, for instance, a korban Pesach, then it's not mutter to bring on your private Bama, only in the Bama Gedola, which was in the Mishkan, in Gilgal and Nova Givon. Other korbanos that would be included, that's not considered a voluntary korban, would be a chatas, asham, any kind of obligation of a korban. You're not allowed to bring in Kal V'chomer, the korban sibur, the tamid, and the musafin. You can bring on your own korban, on your own backyard. That is only for the sibur to bring. But the point of the mission is to say that on a private mizbeach, wouldn't be allowed to bring a korban chatas and a korban asham because it's an obligation. Only a voluntary korban and also korban pesach. Now that's the mission. That's the example the mission uses. But a voluntary korban, that's the kind of korban you'd be allowed to bring on your own bama. The Gemara right away asks, Psachim v'sulo. The Mishnah says the only difference is Psachim. Right away, the Mishnah itself said that anything which is not voluntary, not only korban pesach, other korbanos also are not allowed to be brought on a bama ketana. The Gemara answers, Ema came Psachim. We mean similar. What's similar? That it's not voluntary. Anything which is not voluntary, like the Mishnah itself explains, that's the difference between a bama gedola and a bama ketana. You're not allowed to bring a chova, an obligatory korban. You're not allowed to bring on a bama ketana. But the Gemara has one more point to say that the Mishnah that it shows the example of a korban pesach is interesting. We could have said other examples also of a korban which is an obligation. Why does it pick a korban pesach? And the Gemara is going to say that even a bama gedola also has limitations. The bama gedola means there's a bama ketana that everybody has in their backyard, and there's a bama gedola which was one of the Mishkan, in Givon, Nova Givon, Gilgal, but that's not as much as the Mizbeach at the time of Shiloh or the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when it was mamish, the Isser Bomos, you're not allowed to bring a Bama in any place, that's called the Mizbeach mamish. And here, the Gemara is going to say that mamish is mashma, that even the Bama Gedola also had a certain limitation. What is that? Mani Rab Shimoni, the Tanya Rab Shimon Omer, Av Tzibur Lo Kivu El Psachim, the Chova Shekavod Lem Zman. The Korban Pesach is a carnival korban that has a certain time. As everybody knows, Erev Pesach, you can't bring it whenever you want. It's Kabul Ozman. And the fact that the Mishnah chose the example of a korban Pesach is to tell you that even a Bama Gedola is only mutter if it has a carnival korban which has a set time, like what would we say? A korban Pesach, the korban Tamid, the korban Musik. But if there's going to be a korban, even a korban Sibur, which is not Kabul Ozman, it's not a set time, you wouldn't be allowed to bring it. If you're not allowed even to bring in a Bama Gedola. So Rashi gives two examples. Rashi says if the tzibur didn't have that you have to bring a Paralam Dover, or it did Avodah Zarah by mistake, and you have to bring a Sir Avodah Zarah. So you wouldn't be allowed to bring it on the Bama Gedola either. Rashi doesn't talk about how about a regular korban chatas. Somebody, an individual, did a korban, did a Avera. That's not Kavol Lamzman. So I don't get clarity from Asugi alone what the Mishnah would hold about that. I don't know. You have to look in Zvachim over there. The end of the last paragraph over there talks about a Bama, just to point out that this whole mission is not relevant anymore because there's no such thing as a Bama Ketana anymore. You're not allowed to bring Karbanas on a Bama Ketana after Yerushalayim, which is going to be the next sugya. And there's no such thing as a Bama Gedola either because when the big base midrash is going to be built, then it's going to be the Mizbeach Mamish, and then you bring everything. So this whole sugya is talking about historically when they've had a Bama Gedola and a Bama Ketana, what was permissible, what was not. Just to sum up the Gemara, it said that on a Bama Ketana, you're only allowed to bring voluntary Karbanas, which would be an Ol and a Shlomim and a Toda, and you can't bring any kind of obligatory korban, not even a korban Pesach. In the Bama Gedola, you were allowed to bring an obligatory korban, but it had also a condition that it should be Kavul Ozman. It has to be a kind of korban that has a set time. But if it's a korban that has no set time, like Rashi says, Paralam Dovar, when the Tzibur does an Avera, or they did Avodah Zarah by mistake, so then it's not a time-bound korban. So then you're not allowed to bring it even on the Bama Gedola, only in Shiloh or in the Beis Hamikdash, but not in Nova Givon or in Gilgal.
They talk about bringing a korban Pesach that it would be okay today. Is that?
They talk about bringing a korban Pesach in the Mokum Hamikdash.
Oh, the Mokum Hamikdash.
But not on a Bama. No one's allowed to do it on a Bama. The question was, would you be allowed to do it in the place of the Beis Hamikdash? And that's the next sugya now.
Oh, okay.
Is the Kedusha of Yerushalayim of the Beis Hamikdash is still now in a way that you'd be allowed to bring the korban in the place of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's going to be the sugya. Even if there's no Beis Hamikdash, if you have the place of the Mizbeach, you technically would be able to. That's the answer to the question. Is going to be yes. You would be in a korban Pesach if you'd be able to. And many Gedolim in different generations wanted to know if you're allowed to. The technicality, you have to have a Mizbeach, and it has to be in the right place. And there might be other considerations. You need Bigdei Kahuna, which there was the issue about Tchelas. Nowadays they have Tchelas, so maybe they would that consideration is not an issue. But you have to have the Mizbeach in the right place. And that made the question is, do you know the right place of the Mizbeach? There is an area of 24 amos that even 32 amos that might be kosher, but you have to know where it is, and if not, you wouldn't be able to bring it. Nowadays, so far, we haven't had the opportunity because the Arabs and the government, they don't let, so that's a technical problem. But halachically, if we'd be able to, we would be able to read the korban Pesach if we would have the Mizbeach in the right place. But that's the next thing.
Rav Shiner used to travel to America for Pesach in order to avoid the problem.
I don't understand that, but
That's what I heard.
You don't have to go all the way to America. You go if that's the reason, you go to Bnei Brak. Anywhere out of how many mil?
Yeah, I wouldn't think that that's the reason. I wouldn't think that that's the reason. Okay, next Mishnah. And Ben Shiloh Yerushalayim. I just want to thank you. Before you came, we did show the Ksav Ivri, so it was up. Everybody saw it, and we thank you.
Yeah, wow.
Next Mishnah. Ein Ben Shiloh Yerushalayim. Ela shebeshilo often kachem kalim u'ma'aseh sheni b'chol haroya v'Yerushalayim l'fim menacham. We're talking about the contrast between Shiloh and Yerushalayim. So Shiloh was a Mishkan Shiloh. It was there after, when they came into Eretz Yisrael. So they were in Gilgal for 14 years, and then they were in Shiloh for 369 years. It means it was almost as long as the Beis Hamikdash. Shiloh was very long. They know approximately today. They know where Shiloh was today and approximately where the Mishkan was, and it was there for 369 years. So what is the difference between Shiloh, the Kedusha of Shiloh, and the Kedusha of Yerushalayim? So it says two differences.
Why do you say approximately?
Approximately where it is, where the Mishkan was?
Yeah.
Did they know exactly where the Mishkan was?
They did excavations. I was there decades ago, but
What did they find? They're not going to find the Mishkan over there.
They found stones. Well, maybe they put stones there. Okay.
Okay, I don't know. I imagine that it's not. Okay, whatever. Maybe exactly. Maybe Yaakov says maybe they know exactly where the Mishkan was. Could be. It doesn't have. That's going to be the issue over here now. That there's no kedusha to the place once the Shiloh was over. So then there's no. You let it go.
It was also interesting that just like how Maria is lower than the mountains around it, So to in Shiloh, there are mountains around it that are
Mhm.
higher than edges.
Mhm, mhm.
It was very
Over there, it
interesting.
doesn't say that it's a mountain, right? It doesn't say Shiloh's. Here, it does say that.
No, but
there's a-
there was somehow it was like it seemed like a remnants.
Okay.
Yes, Barnea.
So
Okay.
what is the difference between Shiloh and Yerushalayim? So this has two differences. One difference is that in Shiloh, let's go the other way. Yerushalayim, you're allowed to eat kachim kalim and ma'aser sheni. It means things that have to be eaten in Yerushalayim with it inside the city. It has to be inside the city. But Shiloh is allowed to eat those. You'd be allowed to eat those things not only in Shiloh, any place where you could see Shiloh. The Chol Roa. That means wherever you could see Shiloh, even if you're out of Shiloh, if you could see Shiloh, also you're allowed to eat kachim kalim. Kachim kalim would be karbanos like a shlomim that are eaten in the whole Yerushalayim, Chor, Meiser, Pesach, things that you're allowed to eat in Yerushalayim, you eat in Yerushalayim, and Meiser and in Shiloh, the Chol Roa, as long as you can see Shiloh. The Gemara is not going to say the drasha. Rashi brings down to look in the Gemara's Racham. I think just to point out some Agadat over there. The Gemara says that since Yosef, Shiloh was in the Shevet of Yosef and Ephraim. So since Yosef didn't want to benefit, didn't want to enjoy with his eyes that which was not his, he washed his eyes. So therefore, he was zocha that the Chol Roa, that any place where you see Shiloh also is the kedusha, and you're allowed to eat over there kachim kalim and ma'aser sheni.
What is he looking at? What are you
You
looking
see
at?
Shiloh. You're further than Shiloh, but you see Shiloh. You can see Shiloh.
What do you see? The Mishkan, the Mizbeach?
Oh, I don't know. I think if you see the city of Shiloh is good enough, because the issue is not the Mishkan. The issue is the city, like by Yerushalayim. You're in the city. So in Shiloh, you're allowed to eat in the whole Shiloh, and not only in Shiloh, as long as you can see Shiloh. Rashi says that the Chol Malkum Shir Cholera was Misham Shiloh. One line over there. Okay, Agav, the Mishnah says the Kan V'Kan Kachi Kadashim Nechol L'Chlim and Aklayim. There's no difference between Shiloh and Yerushalayim as far as Kachi Kadashim. It has to be inside the courtyard. So there's no difference. It has to be in the courtyard of Yerushalayim. It has to be in the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash, and it has to be in the courtyard of the Mishkan and Shiloh. That wouldn't be a difference between Shiloh and Yerushalayim. But as far as Kachim Kalim that is eaten in the whole city, say Yerushalayim is within the city, and Shiloh as long as you can see the city. There's a second difference between Shiloh and Yerushalayim. Kedusha Shiloh Yesh Achrei Heter, Kedusha Yerushalayim En Achrei Heter. After Shiloh was over, it was destroyed by the times of the Plishtim. So that was discontinued rather. So Yesh Achrei Heter. It doesn't have any more the Kedusha, and therefore Rashi says that the Gemara is going to talk about that there's a lot of bring an Abama, you're allowed to bring Kabbanas and Abama. There are 2 points that are being said that Yesh Achrei Heter, the words mean that the Kedusha goes off. And therefore, for instance, you'd be allowed to go in the place nowadays. If you want to step in the place where the Mishkan was, even if the archaeologists will find exactly where the Mishkan Shiloh, you're allowed to go onto the place where the Mishkan Shiloh was. And even though because there's no Kedusha anymore, the Kedusha went off. But the Kedusha of Yerushalayim, En Achrei Heter, didn't go off. Even after the Beis Mikdash is destroyed, the Kedusha is still there. Another ramification would be, are you allowed to bring Bamos? Are you allowed to bring a korban outside of Shiloh? Yes, after Shiloh, you'd be allowed to bring a korban on a Bama until Yerushalayim, once Yerushalayim came and the Beis HaMikdash was built, you're not allowed to bring an Obama. And even after Yerushalayim was finished, even after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, you're still not allowed to bring a korban on Obama. And that's why nowadays we don't bring a korbanos on Bomas, because Yerushalayim still has kedusha. The Makam HaMikdash still has kedusha, and therefore, even though there's no Beis HaMikdash, the kedusha didn't go off, and you're not allowed to bring korbanos out of the Beis HaMikdash. Are you allowed to bring korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash? If you hold Ein Achrei Heter, so the kedusha of Yerushalayim still is there, and you would be allowed to bring a korban in the Makam HaMikdash. And we're going to see soon that the halach is even if there's always a mikdash, if you hold Ein Achrei Heter, the kedusha still remains, and be allowed. Of course, you have to have a mizbeach, but you don't have to have a Beis HaMikdash in order to bring a korban, because kedusha Yerushalayim Ein Achrei Heter.
It's a little interesting lesson. Ein Achrei Heter.
That the kedusha didn't go off. The kedusha didn't become permissible. The kedusha is still there. Or Rashi learns Ein Achrei Heter. There's no heter to bring bomas. There's no heter to bring korban.
Because if not, it should have said Kedushas Yishalayim Le Butla.
Okay, you say the word butla. Okay, Rashi learns the words means Yesh Achrei Heter Bomos, and Kedushas Yerushalayim Ein Achrei Heter Bomos. So nowadays the Mishnah says you're not allowed to bring a korban on a boma. You would be allowed to bring a korban in the Makam HaMikdash because the Kedushas Yerushalayim is still there.
What do you say about Yosef and Tzaddik?
The reason why Shiloh is something extra, that even if you're not in Shiloh, you could see Shiloh,
Right.
the seeing of Shiloh. So the Gemara says in Zvachim, the reason why Yosef was zocha to that is because he used his eyes correctly. His vision, the vision of Yosef was that he didn't take something that doesn't belong to him. He
So
didn't
he
look
saw it from the side.
no, nothing to do with it. No. He didn't look at Eishes Potiphar.
Right.
He didn't. So because the schus of his eyes, so Hashem gave him a merit, gave him a schus
Right.
that Shiloh, which is in Shevet Yosef,
Oh,
Shiloh was in Ephraim.
Oh, it's Ephraim. Okay,
Shiloh's in Ephraim. That's Shevet
okay,
Yosef.
that's right.
So because of Yosef, that's why they got the merit that Shiloh would be allowed to have it spreads out to Kedusha as long as you can see it.
Right, there's no shape. Yosef has nothing. It's Ephraim and Menashe.
That's Yosef.
Yeah, that's
Right?
Yosef.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Ephraim. That's right. Yeah.
So now the whole sugya talks about this point that we said that Yerushalayim, even after it was destroyed, still it has Kedusha. That's going to be the whole sugya. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. Shamati shemapiv beis Chonio b'zman hazeh. Rabbi Yitzchak is the opposite of our Mishnah. The Gemara is right away going to say that it's the opposite, and the Gemara is going to disprove him. Rabbi Yitzchak is an Amora, and he said, I heard that you're allowed to bring a korban nowadays in beis Chonio. So beis Chonio was, Rashi brings down, the Gemara Menachos says that it was a house that in Mitzrayim, that the son of Shimon HaTzadik made the kind of a Beis HaMikdash over there. And it was awesome because the Shchutei Chutz. It's not during the Beis HaMikdash was in Bayis Sheni. You're not allowed to make another Beis HaMikdash. You're not allowed to make a mizbech someplace else. Only the Beis HaMikdash. But there was a problem over there because some political reason over there. They make it was a machlokus. And Chonio, that's his name. He made a bama in Mitzrayim, and you weren't allowed to bring. It was avera to bring a bonus over there because the Beis HaMikdash was standing. Go to the Beis HaMikdash. But Bisman has said there's no Beis HaMikdash anymore. So he says now you're allowed to. And the truth is, not Afka, according to Yitzchak, not Afghan Beis Chonio. You can do whatever you want. You can do it in your backyard. He says that after
You're
Yerushalayim,
saying- I'm sorry, during the time that the temple stood.
you were
that
not
was
allowed
a
to bring.
sewer in Beis Chonio.
Right, because you're not allowed to bring a korban only in the Beis
Only
HaMikdash.
in-
It's called Shchutei
But once
Chutz.
it,
Mala b'chutz. There's
but
a
once it
key
was
chorus.
destroyed, then they did.
No, it doesn't say they did that. You said you'd be allowed to. Beis Chonio seems to still have been standing in the times of Rabbi Yitzchak. It sounds like that. And they,
Oh, that now in
You'd be-
Beis Chonio
you'd
nowadays.
be allowed to
you'd be
bring a
able to.
korban because now there's no Beis HaMikdash anymore.
So
and
now
you're
you
allowed to
he
bring
heard that
korbanos.
you'd be able to, which goes against our.
It goes against our Mishnah. That's true. Our Mishnah says you're not allowed to bring korbanos nowadays. He says you're allowed to bring korbanos nowadays. He says the word Beis Chonio because it was already set up. There's a Beis HaMikdash. There's a temple. There's a mizbeach over there.
Uh-huh.
So he says you could use it. He's saying 2 points. The Gemara throws him right away that there was an issue because some hold that Beis Chonio was Avodah Zarah. Then surely you're not allowed to use it because it's a base of Avodah Zarah. So he holds that it's not Avodah Zarah. Because some Beis Chonio allowed base of Avodah Zarah. Fine. It was not Avodah Zarah, it was to Hashem, but it was also during the Beis HaMikdash because you're not allowed to bring Shochit or Mala B'chutz, a Chiv Kores, to bring Korbanos out of the Beis HaMikdash. But nowadays, that there's no Beis HaMikdash, Kasava, second thing, Kedusha Rishon, Kishel L'Shaita, V'lo Kishel L'Shaita. Love with the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash was only as long as it was standing. But once it lost level means in the future, after the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, so there's no Kedusha anymore. The Gemara says Kedusha Rishon means the first Beis HaMikdash, but the Rishonim say that it means the first and the second, that the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash is only while it's standing, and once it's destroyed, so then the Kedusha goes off, and you'd be allowed to bring Korbanos outside the Beis HaMikdash. So he's against our Mishnah. And right away the Gemara is going to say that. He talked about Beis Chonio to tell you the side issue that's also not about the Zorah. But as far as practical issues, he'd be allowed to be in Korban in your backyard because there's no Kedusha to Yerushalayim anymore. Dichsiv. How does he know that? He has a drasha to say that the Kedusha goes off. Over there talks about that he didn't come yet to the Eretz Yisrael, and he calls it Menucha Nachla. The Pashup Shadra says the resting place and the inheritance. But the Gemara says no, it's referring to 2 different stages. Menucha is referring to Shiloh. That's only a temporary place. It was 369 years, but it's only temporary. Nachla is Yerushalayim, which is permanent. But the fact that it puts it together, Menucha Nachla, Makish Nachla Menucha. The pasuk itself compares both of them. Shiloh to Yerushalayim. Ma Menucha Yeshach Re'eta. That's like Shiloh. After Shiloh was destroyed, you're allowed to bring Karbonis. It has no Kedusha anymore, and you're allowed to bring Karbonis and Bama. Afnach Yeshach Re'eta. Also Yerushalayim, after it was destroyed, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so you'd be allowed to bring Karbonis of the Beis HaMikdash. This was all of Yitzchak. And the Gemara says right away, Ambulay Amrit. People said to Rabbi Yitzchak, did you say that? Like, I don't know if he didn't say it on the spot, but a time later, people heard that he said such a thing. So they asked him, did you say that? No, he said he denied it. I didn't say such a thing. So the Gemara says, really, he did say it, but he retracted. Amra Elohim, Amra. I swear by God that he did say it. Even though he said he didn't say it, he really did say it. I heard it from him. My time, why did he retract? Because Rav Mori's kasha, so he realized he made a mistake. The most of Rav Mori is the kasha from our Mishnah. This is a quote from our Mishnah. Kedusha Shili Yeshach Re'eta, Kedusha Yerushalayim Enach Re'eta. Our Mishnah says that you're not allowed to bring Karbonos on a boma after Yerushalayim. So Rav Yitzchak made a mistake. He says you're allowed to bring Karbonos nowadays. Our Mishnah says you're not allowed to. And the Gemara is not going to answer him. He made a mistake. He forgot our Mishnah. The Gemara says another kasha, another raya that you're not allowed to bring Karbonos nowadays. There's a Mishnah in the end of Zvachim. Mishabodi Yerushalayim Nesra Aboma, so the Lahem Od Heter. After the Beis HaMikdash came to Yerushalayim, then Bama said Aser. Before that, it was Mutter. After that, it came as Aser. And no more heter, lo yelem od heter, no more heter abamas anymore. Yoisel anachla, this is what is a nachla. Yerushalayim is a nachla. So the Mishnah, is the Mishnah in Megillah and the Mishnah in Zvachim, both of them say you're not allowed to bring kabbanis nowadays, and the Biska is wrong.
So I know that it isn't really part of this class, but it's important to be able to say I was wrong, and people quote Rashi every time he says I don't understand or I don't know, when he could have not said anything. So how come here he said no, and he could have said I was wrong?
Mhm. It's a good question. I think that it could be that if there's no ramifications, that the saying, even though it's not true, but it doesn't make a difference to anybody. There's no difference if he said it or he retracted or he didn't say it. It's for practical purpose. I didn't say it. It would have been.
In other words, that's what he meant. When he said no, he meant
He said I didn't say it, but there's no difference to anybody. The lie doesn't affect anybody. It doesn't make a difference to anybody.
Uh-huh.
So it could be that there's a chasidus not to, but it was embarrassing maybe. So the Gemara says sometimes. So there is such a consideration. If it's be an issur, if it be usur, then you're not allowed to. But if there's no issur, if it affects somebody else, then you're not allowed to. It's affecting somebody else. But if it's not affecting anybody else, so technically it might be permissible to lie, unless there's no need at all. No need. If there's no reason to lie, so why? But the more reason there is, someone asks you a personal question. And you don't want to say, and if you actually say I don't want to say, that already says something. so you should be. So you could say it could be that you'd be allowed to. It could be there's a chasidus not to. That the famous Gemara that says that the woman was washing her hair and the neighbor knocked on the door and he said is so and so. The neighbor asked, "Is your wife in?" And he said no. So Gemara says over there that it's a chasidus that in the rules over there they didn't say any lies and the children died because of that. But that's considered l'chora chasidus and. He wasn't.
The fact that he said no wasn't an issur.
Right. It over there it says it was a chasidus not to, and at that place they didn't say any kind of lie at all. But it doesn't make a difference to the neighbor if she's there or she's washing her hair. He doesn't have to say she's here, but she's washing her hair. She's not here. For all practical purposes, she's not here. So I think that it is permissible, maybe, but there is a chasidus not to, and try to say the Gemara talks about that say in a way that could be understood in two ways. Like Esav, your first son, that it's because you really had the right to the firstborn, but he didn't say a lot of lie. But it's said in a way that could be what they call a white lie. A white lie is really if it's fooling somebody in a way that you're not allowed to lie, so it doesn't make a difference that it's a white lie. A white lie is a black lie. But if you're allowed to lie, so then be machmir to say it only in a white way, more or less. Okay. The Gemara says Tanoi, even though the Gemara brought two Mishnahs, our Mishnah and also the Mishnah in Zvachim, that says that you're not allowed to bring kabbanis nowadays, the Gemara does find a machlokas Tanoim. Not that Rabbi Yitzchak meant this, because Rabbi Yitzchak said he changed his mind. He retracted. He realized he made a mistake. But the Gemara does is going to try to find Tanoim that say that you are allowed to bring kabbanis nowadays. The Tanan, it says here the Tanya really a Mishnah in Edios. On Rabbi Lezer. So it's going to be now two opinions. Rabbi Lezer. I heard that when they were building the Beis HaMikdash, in the second Beis HaMikdash, when they were rebuilding the second Beis HaMikdash, so they made curtains, makeshift Beis HaMikdash. They made curtains that represented the Beis HaMikdash, the Heichal, and the place where the walls of the Beis HaMikdash supposed to be. They made a curtain until they built it, and also Kolam Lazara. They made curtains around the courtyard to be the walls of the courtyard. Not that it wasn't stone; they're going to build stone, but until they made the stone, they made curtains that should be a kind of a makeshift Beis HaMikdash and a makeshift courtyard. And the Gemara thinks the reason is because you wouldn't be allowed to bring kabbanis if there wouldn't have been some kind of a Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Gemara takes it at this point. Why did they make this makeshift curtain? The whole time. So Rashi says at this point the Gemara thinks that Rabbi Lezer says in order to bring a korban, it's not enough to have a mizbeach, you have to have a Beis HaMikdash, and to have a Beis HaMikdash. So they made at least curtains that would be the outline of the Beis HaMikdash, that represented the Beis HaMikdash, and curtains also to be the Azara, the courtyard, and that's how they were allowed to bring korbanos. And when the Elash of a Heichal bonin b'mechutz, u'bazara bonin b'mifnim, they put the curtains in a way that in the ones of the Beis HaMikdash, they made the curtains in the inside of where the wall was supposed to be, and then they started building the wall. They built the wall outside the curtain, that they shouldn't be building inside the Heichal. And when they were building the courtyard wall, so they made the curtain outside of where the wall is supposed to sand and built a wall inside.
Mhm.
But either way, Rabbi Elazar seems to say that you have to have these curtains in order to be a Beis Hamikdash, in order to be able to bring the Karbonis. And the Gemara is going to say that. But Rabbi Yeshua argues this part of the Mishnah. So Rabbi Yeshua argues, he says, Shemati Shemakiv not Pisha Ein Bais, Ochel Kosher Kadosh not Pisha Ein Kloim, Kosher Kalam, or Ma'aseh Shein not Pisha Ein Choma. That he says you don't have to have these curtains. You're allowed to bring a korban even though there's no Beis Hamikdash. You're allowed to eat Kosher Kadoshim even though there's no Kloim, there's no courtyard, and you're allowed to eat Kosher Kalam, or Ma'aseh Shein in the Holy Yerushalayim, even if there's no wall around Yerushalayim, because the Kedusha didn't go down. This is the words of Rabbi Yeshua, that the Kedusha of Yerushalayim, the first and also the second, that it never left. The Kedusha never left. And therefore, even though the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it still has the Kedusha. And this is talking about when they were rebuilding the Bayis Sheni, but the Kedusha is still there from the Bayis Rishon. And therefore, they didn't have any makeshift curtains in order to represent the Beis Hamikdash. You're allowed to bring a korban and eat the kachim and everything, even if the walls are down, even though it was destroyed. So Rabbi Yeshua is the same as our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, Megillah, and also the Mishnah Zvachim, and also this Mishnah Yedish Rabbi Yeshua, they all say that the Kedusha did not leave. And you're allowed to bring Kabbanas in the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to bring Kabbanas in the Bama. But the Gemara's issue is going to be, what is Rabbi Elazar? Is Rabbi Elazar arguing? The Tanakama, he says that they did make the curtains. Is that because the Beis Hamikdash would not have Kedusha unless you reconsecrated it again with making this makeshift Beis Hamikdash? The fact that Rabbi Yeshua says that it is Kitchel Asalavo and you don't have to make these curtains, this makeshift Beis Hamikdash in order to bring Kabbanas, but Rabbi Elazar seems to argue and says that you did have to. So we found somebody that holds that you're allowed to bring Kabbanas nowadays. You're allowed to bring Kabbanas on a Bama nowadays. That Yerushalayim doesn't have any. Once the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, have Kedusha over there, and maybe that'll be a korban someplace else. So the Gemara thinks that it found somebody like Rabbi Yitzchak, even though Rabbi Yitzchak retracted, but we found such a shita. But the Gemara says not a proof. Who says I don't see that Rabbi Elazar argues on this point. Everybody agrees what Rabbi Yeshua says that the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash never goes down, and even if it's destroyed, it's kadosh. You're allowed to bring kabbanas over there. You're not allowed to bring kabbanas any place else. That's arguing what I heard. Rabbi Elazar says I heard this. Rabbi Yeshua says I heard that. He heard that there were curtains. Here there were no curtains. But everybody holds you don't really need the curtains. So if you don't need the curtains, why did they make it for? Why did they make the curtains if you don't need the Beis Hamikdash in order to bring the kabbanas? It wasn't a Beis Hamikdash. It was just curtains. It wasn't a real Beis Hamikdash. So why did they make this makeshift Beis Hamikdash? This news of that there should be that you made that the place has the kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash, so it shouldn't be open to everybody. So they made a curtain around it that this represents the enclosure of the Beis Hamikdash, and then they made a courtyard curtain. This represents the courtyard. But as far as the halacha, you don't need the curtains. It would have been the Beis Hamikdash kedusha even if it had no walls. So the Gemara didn't find anybody yet that argues. We have our Mishnah, the Megillah, we have the Mishnah Zvachim, and we have Rabbi Yeshua in Edios that all of them say that the kedusha of Yerushalayim remains even after it's destroyed, and you're not allowed to bring karbonis on a bum anyplace else. You would be allowed to bring karbonis in that place. And Rabbi Elazar, we don't see that he argues.
The Tiferet Yisrael has, it's not exactly curtains, and I don't know if it's for Tzenuta or
that's
for protection that things shouldn't fall.
But neither way is it in
that.
order. But neither way is it in order. Yeah, right. That's an example. When you build, they make either that people shouldn't see, things shouldn't fall, or that they shouldn't be seen, whatever.
Or going in.
So, but that all is not in order to make a makeshift basic knesses until it's ready.
Yeah.
You don't need a makeshift basic. That's not worth anything. But here the question was, did they need the makeshift in order to make that there should be some kind of basic mikdash in order to bring kabbanas? The Gemara thought that's Rabbi Elazar, but the Gemara rejects it. You don't see that. He just made it for tznius alone, but not that it has halachic implications, because it would have been to consider the basic mikdash even if it would have been there's no walls over there. So far we have two Mishnahs beferish.
The fact there's no Kodesh Kedoshim inside there. There's no Aron Kodesh.
No, that surely doesn't. Even the whole Bayis Sheni didn't have the Aron. The whole Bayis that surely is not. That surely doesn't make that. It's not. Doesn't take away. It doesn't take away the kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash because there's no Aron. The Aron, the basement is the Beis Hamikdash. Yes. Okay. Now the Gemara still trying to find Machlokes Tanoim. The Gemara does find Machlokes Tanoim about this issue about the Kedusha of Yerushalayim going off after it's destroyed. This Gemara that we're going to see now doesn't differentiate between the Mikdash and Yerushalayim and whole Eretz Yisrael. Does the Kedusha go off after the Golus, after the Chorban? So now we spoke about the Beis Hamikdash, and now the Gemara is also going to talk about Eretz Yisrael in general. The Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Lama Manu Chachamim Maseilu. So this is referring to a mission in Erchin. Over there it talks about the cities that are walled cities. But the Arachom, we had the halacha a couple of pages ago, that has more kedusha. The cities that are walled cities, from the days of Yeshua ben Nun has a din about the Rechoma that if somebody sells a house over there, so you're not allowed to redeem it only for the first year. After that, you can't redeem it anymore. Also, the Masorah has to go out of all of the walled cities. That's Mishtalech Chutz L'Shalosh Machnos. So what's considered this walled city of Eretz Yisrael? So it says over there, Erechon has a list of about, I think, 8. Rashi says 9. Has a list of cities that says those are walled cities from the days of Yeshua ben Nun. And the Brisa says, why do they list these? Lama Manu Chachamim Aseilu. Why do the Chachamim list these? Because when they came back in Bayis Sheni, they found these cities and they reconsecrated them. So here the Bryce is saying that the only reason why they still have the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, of Batei Orechoma, of walled cities, only because they reconsecrated it again. But the original ones, even though they were walled cities, they lost the Kedusha at the time that the Eretz Yisrael was exiled and conquered. So they lost the Kedusha. Here the Gemara is talking about Eretz Yisrael, and it says the same thing as before. The Gemara doesn't differentiate Yerushalayim, the Mikdash, the whole Eretz Yisrael, the Orechoma, that once the Golos, the whole Kedusha went off. This Bryce holds that the Kedusha goes off. So until now we had many sources that said that the Kedusha did not go off. Here the Gemara says this Bryce holds that the Kedusha did go off because you had to reconsecrate it again. The Gemara does say Tanoi, here it said Tanoi because it's going to bring that this issue alone seems to be Machlokes Tanam, because others say that on this issue, how come it counted the cities over there, the Orechoma, not because they were reconsecrated, because it happened to be that these are the ones that they found. But anyone that they would have been able to recount that it was from the days of Yeshua will be holy, even if they did not reconsecrate it. That's what the Gemara is going to bring now. Reminu, the Rashi seems to say the opposite. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, which just to point out is the same exact name as before. The Gemara is going to ask a contradiction. Here was Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, and here's Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Here, this Bryce is going to say that they counted it not because they had to be consecrated, but because they happen to these, but they could be other ones also. Are these the only ones? These 8 or 9? It says in the Torah that there were in one area alone. There was Chevel Agov, the belt of Argov over there. It says there were 60 cities that all of them were captured by Am Yisrael, and they were fortified cities with walls. You had walled cities from the days of Yeshua ben Nun. 60 cities right there. So why they only count over here 8 or 9? So here there's the Gemara right away is going to edit the Brisa because it's going to be evident in a couple of lines that it's a mistake. Here it says this is the same words as it said before on the second wide line, Matzu Aselu B'Kitchum. And the Gemara here quotes the Brisa, and this Brisa also says because they reconsecrated it, that's why they counted only these. But the Gemara right away says that this is a mistake. This words don't make sense because the Brisa right away continues that anyone is holy, even if they didn't consecrate it. So we're going to have to edit this. Kitchum, Ashra, they consecrated it now. Amid Beis, right away, the next words are going to say don't have to consecrate it. So Matzelu Umanum. The Gemara changes the word from Kitchum to Umanum. That they found these 8, 9 cities and they counted them because they happened to find them, not because they had any difference. They didn't have to reconsecrate them. And like the Bryce continues with Farish, any city that you know from a tradition that this has been a walled city since Yeshua ben Nun, it has all the halachas about Orechoma. This Bryce says Farish that Kedusha Rishona is for all generations. So that's what the Gemara meant before Tanoi. The first Bryce, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi said Kedusha Rishona lo Kitcha Lasav Lavo, and this Bryce says Kedusha Rishona yes Kitcha Lasav Lavo. So back to the whole issue: does Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash, Eretz Yisrael, does it have kedusha after the Churban? So we have machlokes. Our Mishnah says yes, it remains. The Mishnah Zvachim says that it remains. Rabbi Shua and Edia says that it remains. Here we have Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi quoted 2 different ways: either it remains or it doesn't remain. The Gemara now just has contradiction. These 2 prices, both of them are contradicting each other with the same name. Kasha de Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel Yossi contradicting himself. Did the kedusha go off or not? The Gemara answers straight. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. It's machlokes what Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi said. So we did find somebody that holds like everybody else that kedusha did not go down, but we did find somebody quoting Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi that the kedusha goes off. We could say also that the first brayse that was quoted in the name of Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, it's really Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. He's the one who says the kedusha does not go off because we find Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi says so. The Tanya Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi Omer Ashaloch Choma. That's about the walled cities. And it says it either with a vav or with an aleph, but it means Ashalochama with the vav means that it has a wall. Lochama with the aleph means it does not have a wall. So he says that if it had once upon a time a wall by Yeshua ben Nun, even though it doesn't have now, the kedusha does not go off. So Elazar ben Bossi holds with favorites that the kedusha doesn't go off even if he talks about the physical wall. You don't need the physical wall. Also the kedusha, even if it got removed, it does. Well, even if the korban, it doesn't take off the kedusha either. So that's the end of the sugya, and it comes out that the Gemara in our sugya, it puts everything together into the same pot. The Mikdash, Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, everything. The question is, did the kedusha go off after the korban? And it comes out that many sources say that it did not, and the ramifications would be that you are allowed to bring korbanos in the Makam Mikdash. You're not allowed to bring an abama, and there is one shita, one brisa in the name of Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi that says that the kedusha did go off as far as the first brisa said that the kedusha that the kedusha did go off. That's the Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. The second one is Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara did find one brisa that says that the kedusha of Bati Arachoma did go off, and according to that, the Gemara says also the Yerushalayim and the Mikdash, the kedusha went off, and you'd be able to bring korbanos in a bama nowadays in your backyard. The halacha, of course, that's the end of the sugya. The halacha is that you're not allowed to bring an abama nowadays, like our Mishnah. You're not allowed to bring korban any place. Are you allowed to bring in the Makam Mikdash? Yes. In the Makam Mikdash, to be able to bring a korban, but yet what he said, you have to have the Makam Mizbeach. You have to know what a Mizbeach is. As far as Tumah B'tzibur, T'chuy B'tzibur, but you have to know what a Mizbeach is. But technically, you would be able to bring a korbanos nowadays, even though there's no Beis Mikdash. And the issue is about the whole Eretz Yisrael. It means, does the whole Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael go down or not? So on our side, you would say that it's the same thing, and the Kedusha did not go off. If so, Trumas and Ma'aser should be the Raisa then, and they have contradictions from other Gemaras, and because of that, the Rambam differentiates between the Mikdash and the Eretz Yisrael. That the Mikdash in Yerushalayim, he says that the Kedusha is forever. But the rest of Eretz Yisrael depends if they would conquer it, so then the Kedusha goes off, and Trumas and Ma'aser might be Drabanan nowadays. So in our Sugi, you don't see all that. In our Sugi, it goes package deal. Does the Kedusha go off or not? And the Sugi seems to paskin that it remains. The Kedusha didn't go off. Nowadays, you're not allowed to go to Harabayis if you're Tameh, and you can't go to the Makam Mikdash, even if he's not a Balkari, but you can't go to the Makam Mikdash yourself because it's Tameh Meis. That the Kedusha of the Mikdash is intact nowadays, and you're not allowed to be in Korban and Abama. As far as the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, Gemara seems to put it all together, and that would mean that Truas and Ma'aser is the Raisa nowadays, but I think that the poskim say that it is Rabbanan based on. That's the end of the parak. And we finished the cruise of the Ein Bein. And the Gemara now, for about 5 daf of Agartha, all about Darshaning the Megillah Sester. So this is the place where the end of the first parak, the Gemara puts now all the Agartha, and it goes till the end of the parak, very big dapim, all about the Megillah Sester, and all the Midrashim that you hear about, and it goes mamish until daf 17. So we're on daf, so it's really more than I said. We're on daf Yudam and Beis, and it's going to go until daf 17. All about Agartha, and we're on a new path. We finished the cruise of the Ein Bein.
What were you saying the last thing about something's dear rice?
It's true as a rice is the rice nowadays.
Trumas and mice.
All the halachas please bars is very strong
Is it dear
considered
rice?
rice. So I think that say that now the kedusha is strong. And our Gemara seems to put it all together. And
Since that you still have kedusha in the Makam
and
Mikdash,
Mikdash
so
also, right. Our Gemara puts it
Michael
together.
also owns Trumas.
That's what our Gemara seems to say. But the poskim have difficulty. Other Gemara say that's only Rabbanan nowadays. And the Rambam differentiates, even though Asugi puts it all together. That's the kasha. Our Gemara puts it all together. The Orechoma together with Yerushalayim and the Mikdash, all the same in our Sugi. But the Rambam, based on other Gemaras, he differentiates, and he says that even though we pass in Yerushalayim based on Mikdash, the kedusha does remain. And you're not allowed to bring korbanos and Abama nowadays. And you could bring korbanos in the place of the Mikdash nowadays because the kedusha of the Mikdash still is intact. But as far as Eretz Yisrael, they bring other sugis that say it's Rabbanan, it's against our Gemara. Okay, new sugya, and it's all I got it now. Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh. That's the first thing. So what's going to now? Rabbi Levi, Rabbi Yonason. The following thing is a tradition we have from the men of the Great Assembly. The word Vayihi, whenever it says the word Vayihi, it always means a problem. The word Vayihi in the whole Tanakh, it always means a problem. And the Gemara is going to bring about 10 examples that you see Vayihi, and there was a problem.
Translate tsar problem.
How do you say? How do you translate?
Pain.
Pain. Okay, tsar, pain. Wherever it says Vayihi, it's some kind of a pain. And the Gemara gives some examples. The first one is what was the pain? A big pain. In the beginning of Rus, what was the problem? There was a hunger or a famine over there. Another one, the Parshas Bereshis, it says when a man started increasing, then it says, Hashem saw that the evil of man is great, a lot of bad errors. Another one, over there when they built the Tower of Babel. So it says they traveled from the east. Over there it says, build a city, that was a bad thing. The next one, by the case of the 4 and the 5 kings. What does it say? There was a war, that was a bad thing, the 4 and the 5 kings. Also, this is enough. We're going to Navi also. We started also with the Navi Hashverosh and Shvot HaShoftim. Here by Yossi, that sounds like a good thing. He was going to conquer Yericho, but it says that he met a malach that had a drawn sword, and Rashi means the drash before that he came because you didn't learn between the Korban Tamid yesterday now, and you didn't learn Torah. Hashem is Yeshua. Hashem was with Yeshua, sounds good, but it says that they took from the Chayrim over there, they took from Yericho and fell problem. That's good. Shmuel, no, it wasn't so good. Hashem that Chana didn't have any children. Also, Shmuel got old, but it says it wasn't good. That his children, Chafni and Pinchas, they didn't go in his ways. David was successful in everything, but right away it says David. Shaul was eyeing David. Shaul was after David. There was a problem. Another one, David was sitting in his house, but he wanted to build a Beis HaMikdash, but no, you shouldn't build a Beis HaMikdash. So the more about all these examples of Vayihi, that's a pain, but not in where some kashas. So up to the fifth wide line, and the last word, Vaksiv. This starts kashas now. Vaksiv, by the Miluim and Parsha Shmini, it was a good thing. They built the Mishkan. The day was happy to Hashem, the day of creation. The fact that it says the same term of by Yom Hashmini, I guess by Yom Echad, the Russia would be Yom Hashmini, similar to the beginning. So it was as happy as the days of creation, so it's good. The Gemara says no, there was a problem there. There was a pain over there also. Hashacham Nadav died. So the klal is still good. That every time it says Vayihi, there's a problem. But the Nana Gemara has a kasha with a couple of kashas now with no tirus. So Nana Gemara is going to disprove it, and you find Vayihis that are not painful. 480 years after he ceased Mitzrayim, Shlomo started building the Beis HaMikdash. That was a good thing. No problem over there. Kasha number 1. Kasha number 2. Yaakov, when Yaakov saw Rachel, and then he helped her and he wanted to marry her, everything was good over there. There wasn't any problem. No problem over there. By creation, it was all good. All the days of Yom Shlishi, Sheni, Shlishi, Tuba, and many others, either in the Revi, Chamishi, Shishi, or in the whole Tanakh. Also, you can find other good Vayihis. So the Gemara retracts from the first statement that it was misquoted. The word Vayi alone doesn't necessarily mean pain. It could be also good also. But Vayi b'mei ena ela lashon tzar. The word Vayi b'mei, whenever it says Vayi b'mei, that's when it's painful. How many times do you think it says in the Tanakh Vayi b'mei? What would you guess? How many Vayi b'meis? So the Gemara says only 5. And the only 5 times in the whole Tanakh that it says Vayi b'mei. I was stunned by this. That only 5. I thought there would be.
Because that was so significant. We say that we
I would think Vayi, but it's only 5 times in the whole Tanakh. And here they go. They're all painful. There are 5 Vayi B'meis. That's one problem. We said before there was a famine. That was the king, the war of the 4 and the 5 kings.
You don't have over there in the beginning in Bereshis with the four kings, the 5 kings, doesn't say Vayi b'mei.
Yeah, Vayi b'mei Amrafel. That's what he said. Vayi b'mei Amrafel. That's the third one.
Why is that bad?
There was a war.
Yeah, but it wasn't our problems. Let them fight each other.
The Gemara says that the Lot was taken. It was a problem. The war was a problem.
Okay.
And there are 2 more in the whole Tanakh. Vayi b'mei Achaz, that he was in Russia, and Vayi b'mei Yoakim, also in Russia. So there are 5 Vayi b'meis in the whole Tanakh, and they're all no good. That's the cloud.
Are they amongst these 11 we mentioned? All those, are they all here in these 11?
Which 11?
We just did 11 up till I just counted them. There was 11 Vayihis that are noted.
the Gemara mentioned in the first white line, Vibi Mechashverish, Vibi Meshot Shoftim, and on the second white line, Vibi Amrafel. The Gemara said three out of the
Oh,
five.
so 3 out of 5.
But the last two, the one didn't mention before,
I
and now it says. So that's the end of the Gemara, and the reason why he came in is because Vibi Mechashverish, as Lashon Tsar. What was the problem? Haman was there. Because of this, we get a bonus. We're going a little cruise now, a little cruise. This is the cruise of Levi, of Masaras B'Yadenim Avosenu. That this first one was a tradition. The first was misquoted. It said Vayi, and then we cleared it up that he means Vayi Bimei. Because of this, we got a little bonus of a couple of other Rab Levis that are going to say Masaras. Rab Levi, those are Masaras B'Yadenim Avosenu. Amos v'Amatzi Acham Havu. Amos and Amatzi were brothers. Amos is the father of Yeshayahu ben Amos. Amatzi was the king of Yehuda. And he says they're brothers. In the Tanakh, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that they're brothers. But he says you should know that in Masaras, we have a tradition that they were brothers. What's the difference? Why do we care if they're brothers or not? It's in order to teach you the following statement. Rabbi Yonasan says, any kala, any daughter-in-law that's sanua, she's modest in the house of her father-in-law. In the old days, the son would take his wife and move into his father's house. He'd bring his wife into his father's house. So the daughter-in-law was by her father-in-law. If she's sanua in the house of her father-in-law, so she'll be zocha, and she'll have children that are eventually descendants that will come out of her, kings and prophets. How do you know that? Minolan, how do you know that a woman who's tanua in her father-in-law house will have descendants, kings, and neviim? Mitoma, because Tamar was tanua. How do you know she was tanua? When she covered her face, and he thought that she's a zona, and that's why he wanted to have relations with her. But the Pashta would mean that she covered her face. He didn't recognize her. And he thought that she was a zona, but the Gemara says a zona doesn't usually cover her face. Because she covered her face, he thought she's a zona. On the contrary, that wouldn't be a reason to think she's a zona. That's how the Gemara learns, that she covered her face, not now. Now she uncovered her face. But when she was in his house, when she was married to his sons, then she covered her face and he didn't recognize her. So now then he saw her and he didn't know who she was. And that's why he wanted to have relations with her, because he didn't realize that it's his daughter-in-law. That's how you see so far that she was sanua. And how do you see that she married to have kings and prophets? How do you know Malachim? David, we know that David comes from Yehuda. That's clear. But how do you know Nevi'im? Where do you see that Nevi'im came from Shevet Yehuda?
Excuse me, the pasuk, didn't the pasuk say that he thought she was a harlot because she covered her face?
Yes, but the Gemara is saying a drash. The Pashut Pshat is because she covered her face now. That's Pashut Pshat. But the Gemara is saying that's not a reason to think she's a zona. So the Gemara says because she covered her face once upon a time, and now she didn't cover her face because she covered her face once upon a time. That's why he didn't recognize her. It's not. He thought she's a harlot because he didn't recognize her. Why did he recognize her? Because yeah.
Pshat is that now she covered her face and he thought she's a zona.
Right. And how do you know that Nevi'im? Where do you find any prophets came from Yehuda? How do you know?
How do you know any prophets came from Yehuda?
Right.
Prophets.
So the Gemara says because it is, because Amos and Amatzi were brothers. And we know that, so we know that he's from Yehuda. Amatzi was from the king of Yehuda. Now he had a brother, Amos, he's from Yehuda. And he had a son, Yeshaya. So we know that she had prophets also, because Yeshaya was from Shevet Yehuda. So we had to have this Masoros in order to know this drush, that a woman who's Tsanua, will marry just like Tamar, that prophets came from her. How do you know prophets came from Tamar? Because we know that Amos was a brother of Amatzi. That means he also was from Shevet Yehuda, and he had a son Yeshayahu. So you see that she got prophets from her descendants. Another bonus of Rab Levi, Masaras B'Yadenim Avosenu. Rab Levi, that was Masaras B'Yadenim Avosenu. The following thing, that the Aron Kodesh in the Kodesh HaKadoshim didn't take up any space. And the Gemara is going to say that the whole room was 20 by 20 amas, and the Aron, if you'd measure it on either side, you'd get 10 amas till the wall. That means that the Aron didn't take up space. That the Aron that Moshe made, that was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, had 10 amas in every direction. But the whole Kodesh HaKadoshim was only 20 by 20. If you look at the side, the gears here is a little mishubash. On the side, it says that the dvir is the mechitza. That's the wall between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And within the dvir was 20 amas long, 20 amas wide. So where's the Aron then? Aron Gufe, skip all those words. Aron Gufe, Yecha Havakoi. So where was the Aron? If the whole room was 20 by 20, and 10 amas on either side of the Aron, it miraculously existed. It didn't take up any space. So we finished. The main point we came here was Vahi Bimei's Lashon Tsar. We got two bonuses also from Rab Levi, that one is almost what, and the Armin didn't take up any space. New sugya. And now the Gemara starts on a list of different introductions to the Megillah system. We're not getting yet to the Megillah system. We just said by Ibimei in general, Ibimei. We didn't touch even the word Achashverosh. We'll get to that later. But now the Gemara is going to have a long list of different introductions to the Megillah. And the Midrash do this very often. By the beginning of a Sefer, it says introductions to the Sefer. And here, I counted about 18. Maybe my count is wrong, but it's going to be approximately 18 introductions. So what do? They take a pasuk from someplace else and they say that this is an introduction to the whole Megillah system. And here, I highlighted them, if it helps anybody. Rav Yonasan, Pasach la Pischa la Pasha Samayacha. This is the first pasuk that he darshans. V'kamti aleim, Techrati leBavel, Shem Usher, V'nim V'nech Nom Hashem. This is talking about a prophecy against Bavel. It seems to be in Yeshaya 55, no, Yeshaya 14. And it says, I'm going to stand up against them. Hashem says, I'm going to cut down to Bavel a name, a remnant, a descendant, a child, and a grandchild, says Hashem. But the Gemara is going to dash that the word nin usually means a child. But the Gemara is going to dash, in modern Hebrew, nin means a great grandchild. It's an invention. The word nin means a child. Nin v'nechad means a child and a grandchild. But the Gemara is going to dash that the word nin means kingship, royalty. And now the Gemara is going to dash in this pasuk. Shame, that 4 things are going to be cut down. Shame, share, nin, v'nechad. Shame is the script. Bavel doesn't have its own script. Bavel was cut down. They have no script. Share, zeloshan. They have no language either. They have no language. They have a borrowed. They have to take from a different nation. They don't have their own language and script. Nin zem malchus. Rashi reads a pasuk. You find that the word means kingship. They're not going to have any kingship in Babel. Their empire is going to fall. And Nechet zu Vashti. And also their grandchild is going to be destroyed, which is Vashti. Here the Gemara says that Vashti was a descendant of Babel, even though it was in the Persian government, Achashverosh, but she herself was from Babylonian descent. And she was cut down. That's the first Hagdama. That's the first one. And this pasuk that says that Babel is going to cut down a grandchild, as Vashti was cut down from the descendants of Babel. The next introduction. He introduced the parsha of Megillah Esther from the following pasuk. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya 55. Tachas and Atzos. We read this in Dirshu Hashem b'Yimatzo. Antanis by Mincha. So Tachas and Atzos Yaleh B'Rosh V'Sachas HaSepod Yaleh Adas. And let's jump down about 5 lines. And then the pasuk Vayal Hashem L'Shem Lo Solam Lo Yikares. That's the pasuk the Gemara is darshaning. That instead of the Natzutz, there's going to come a brosh. Pashup Shat Natzutz is an inferior kind of a bush, and a brosh, chosh of a tree, is going to come in its place. And a sirpad also is a kind of a inferior bush, and a hadas is going to come in its place, and it's going to be to Hashem for a name, for an everlasting sign, which is not going to be cut down. That's the pasuk. Not a Gemara going to darshan it concerning Megillah Esther. Tachas and Natzutz, who's that? That's Haman. Tachas Haman of Russia. Why is he called Natzutz? You find other places where Natzutz, which is a kind of an inferior bush, that's a mashal of Avodah Zarah. I find this pasuk over here, and that's referring to Haman because he made himself an Avodah Zarah.
Okay, there's a remes to Nazis. Just looking at the latest.
So in place of Haman, Tachas Haman, Natzutz is Haman. Is who's going to be? Yalla Brosh. Who's Brosh? That's referring to Mordechai. Zeh Mordechai. Why is Mordechai called Brosh? Shenikra Rosh. It's a drash in the pasuk that Rosh is a kind of a tree, a cypress tree. But the Gemara is saying that the Rosh is the word Rosh with the aleph. That is the head. Why is Mordechai called the head? Rosh l'chol haBasamim. He's called the best of all of the spices. Where do you see that? Shenema v'atakach l'chol haBasamim Rosh. More dror. That one of the Basamim Rosh means chashuv Basamim, chashuv spices, and more dror is the first of those spices. And over there it says it with Hagaminon Moridechi. That the translation of more dror is Moridechi, and that's it. Moridechi is Mordechai. Put it all together. Moridechi is Mordechai. So that's a remez for Mordechai. So Tachas and Atzilus Yaleh B'Rosh, Tachas Haman, Yaleh Mordechai. That Mordechai is going to come in the place of Haman. And the pasuk continues, Tachas HaSirpad Yaleh Adas. Who's Sirpad? Tachas Vashti. Vashti is called Sirpad. Why is she called Sirpad? Tachas Vashti Yerusha, Bas Ben Nebuchadnezzar Russia, the granddaughter or the great granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. And why is he called Sirpad? Shesaraf Refidas Beis Hashem. Sirpad is a combination of 2 words, samach, but it's like a sin. Saraf and also rapad. Saraf rapad. What's that? He burnt the rapad. What's rapad? The chsiv refidaso zahav. Pasuk Shirashim calls the Beis Hamikdash refers to refidaso. If it means nowadays use the word refidaso to mean like upholsteries, repud. But that's to get it from this pasuk over here. But it could mean matzaim, or what was the other word that they used?
Table.
A resting place. I think
It's
resting place.
place.
But whatever the Vidasa was referring to the Beis Hamikdash. So Sorah for Vidasa was Zav, that he burnt the Beis Hamikdash. So Tachas HaSipad, in the place of the one who's a descendant of the Sipad, about the Beis Hamikdash, Hadas is going to come. Who's the Hadas? Hadas is Esther. So Esther has something. Is why she called Hadas. She creates Hadasa. She never. That was her name. Her name was Hadasa. So that's the drash in the pasuk. Tachas HaNatzitz Yaleh Bro Shachas HaSipad Yaleh Hadas. Tachas Haman Yaleh Mordechai. Tachas Vashti Yaleh Esther. The pasuk ends off Vayal Hashem L'Shem. It's going to be to Hashem for a name. So Mikra Megillah. Mikra Megillah is the publication of the whole story. And La'osa Olam Lo Yikareis is going to be an everlasting sign that's never going to be cut off. In the Yimei Purim, that it says that there's never going to be forgotten. That was the second drash, the second introduction to the Megillah.
That's a long one. Where does it end up by the words Eilu Yimei Purim?
Yes. Now starts the third one. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Pasach LaPischa LaPashas Miyacha, he introduced the Megillah says with the following pasuk. A pasuk in Devarim by Kisava, by the Tochacha. The same way that Hashem was happy to do good to you at the time of the punishment, he may insist to do bad to you. So you might take simply the Gemara like as if Hashem is going to be happy to do punishment. And the Gemara writer says it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean Hashem is happy to do punishment. The Gemara is going to say that it means that he makes others happy, that he's going to make the enemy happy to glee over you when they're going to come to try to punish you, to fight you. And that's referring to the story of Megillah Esther, that Haman and Achashverosh, they were all happy and gleeful to destroy the Jews. That's this pasuk over there is referring to the story of Purim. At the end, Baruch Hashem, that we did Shuvah and Hashem saved us. But at that point, when they were doing bad, they were gleeful over our downfall. So the Gemara first explains the pasuk that doesn't mean Hashem is happy. First, is Hashem happy about the downfall of even of the wicked, even if we were wicked, but Hashem is not happy about that. This is a pasuk in. It says in the side Divrei Yamim over there, there's a story about Yehoshaphat, one of the good Jewish kings, and they were being attacked by a huge enemy. And it says that the Navi came and said, just sing and say Shira, and everything's going to be good. And over there it says that the Mesholim, they went before the soldiers, and they said the following song, Hodul Hashem ki lo olam chasdo. And that's all usual. Usually you say Hodul Hashem ki tov ki lo olam chasdo. Over there they said Hodul Hashem ki lo olam chasdo. Why didn't they say ki tov? How come in this thanks it doesn't say Kito? It wasn't so good. It was something, it was good, but there was something that was missing over there. The fact that the Rishon, the bad, that Goyim, Ammon, and Moab, that they were the ones who were being destroyed. But Hashem is not happy about the downfall of the Rishon. Another proof that Hashem is not happy, even Goyim. What about
Rabbi Yishmael?
They asked the kasha, and there's a Zohar about it, but I don't remember right now. But there's a kasha and there's a two. It says by the Kriyas Yamsuf. It says that the cloud came and it divided in the Mitzrayim, but the Gemara says a drash on this. It sounds very similar to the Karaz El Zev Amar, and that talks about that the Malachim say Shira. And here, Lo Korv Zel Zeh, that the Hashem didn't let the Malachim to say Shira. Bikshu Malachi Ashor Shlom Mishim, like always, the Karaz El Zeh. I'm a Kodesh Baruch Hu. My senior, they told me Shira that my creations are drowning the Mitzrayim, and you're saying Shira. It's not a time of Shira. So Hashem is not happy about the downfall of the Rishon. So two sources. The Gemara brings that Hashem is not happy about the downfall of Rishon, even Goyim. Both stories is Goyim. So Kal V'chomer Am Yisrael, they're being punished. Hashem is not happy. So how does it say in the pasuk Hashem is going to make that and be happy about the downfall of Am Yisrael? So the Gemara says no. Amar Belazar, who ain't us? He's not happy. He makes others happy. Means he makes the enemy happy when they come against the Am Yisrael. They cannot be the chesiv. Can yasis? Well, chesiv yasus. The word yasis and yasus means to make happy. Yasus means to be happy. Like just to give an example, the word yakum means to get up. Yakim means to get something up, to get something else up. So yasis means to make somebody else happy. Can yasis Hashem? Hashem is going to make others happy. So that this was the Hakdama to the Megillah. This was the third one. That this pasuk is an introduction to the Megillah Esther. That at that time Hashem made the enemy happy to destroy Am Yisrael. The next one, number 4. He said following introduction to the Megillah Esther. The pasuk in Koheles, L'adam shetov lefanov nasan chachma v'das v'simcha. I'll just jump around. V'lachotei nasan inyan l'sof v'lechnos l'seis l'tov l'vnei Elokim. All the highlighted. That's one pasuk. To the man who's good before Hashem, he gave wisdom and knowledge and happiness. and to the sinner he gave an issue to gather, to give to the good one before God. So here it says that the man was good, Hashem gave wisdom. Who's that? The Mordechai Tzaddik. Hashem gave Mordechai Chochmah v'das v'simcha. But Lachoteinu Asan in Yosef to the sinner, Hashem gave an issue that he should gather. So Haman was busy collecting money. He became very rich. Haman was very rich. He was busy gathering money. For what purpose? Because Hashem orchestrated that all that money is going to go eventually to the one who's good. Who's that? So Mordechai Esther. They're the ones who got all the wealth of Haman. That at the end, when Achashverosh gave Esther the house of Haman, the whole estate of Haman, so she put Mordechai in charge. So Mordechai and Esther got the estate of Haman. One more, he said, introduction to Megillah Esther from this pasuk. Pasuk in Yirmiyah, I'm going to put my throne in Elam. Elam is the country, Persia, of Shushan Abira. Like Rashi brings down that Shushan Abira, Asher Be'elam HaMedina. Rashi on the bottom left, he says that Shushan Abir was in Elam. So here it says, Hashem says, I'm going to put my throne in Elam, and I'm going to destroy from there a king and officers. Who's that? Which king and officers? Vashti. The sons of Haman Vasar's. Those are the ones who were destroyed. That not Achashverosh, you don't point that he was destroyed, but Vashti was destroyed. And officers, who's that? Haman Vasar's that they were, he and the sons were officers, and they were the ones who were destroyed. That's a pasuk in Yirmiyah. That's the introduction to the whole story of Megillah Esther. Ad Khan. Okay, Yeshikach everybody, and the next couple of days, all Aganata.
Good. You like
We get a little break.
Yeshikach. Thank you everybody.
Vacation.
Yeshikach. Mr. Shweki, did you get the link from Gadi and Avram Levit?